Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today, I am talking to none other than Allison Russell. Now, her life has had its ups and downs like everybody else's, but things have never looked better than they do right now for the Canadian singer-songwriter. Her 2021 solo album, Outside Child, earned her multiple awards and nominations, along with near universal acclaim. Lately, she's been spending quality time working and hanging out with artists like Brandi Carlile, Rhiannon Giddens, and someone named Joni Mitchell. And her new sophomore solo release, The Returner, her most musically and emotionally upbeat offering, seems poised to be the album that will turn her into a full-fledged star after 20 years of making music with bands like Poor Girl, Birds of Chicago, and Our Native Daughters. While doing a day of press in New York City, the Nashville-based Russell got on the Zoom to talk about the roller coaster ride, hanging out with Wendy and Lisa, the power of defiant joy, and plenty more. Enjoy. Hello, Allison Russell. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well, Daryl. How are you? I'm sorry I'm tardy. My other interview went over a little bit.
No problem at all. No problem.
Yeah.
Where are you today?
I am in Chelsea in New York City. I've been doing promo here for the last three days. So,
Oh
and then
my
I go
God.
to Calgary tomorrow. Yeah.
You must be getting tired of talking about yourself.
Well, luckily I don't have to just talk about myself because this record is so much about the whole circle of amazing artists who are part of
Oh,
it. So it's fun to talk about other people too.
exactly, exactly. And I want to get into all that, but I am just so thrilled with how well things are going for you. 2023 has got to be one of the best years of your life.
Unbelievable. Yeah, really, truly unbelievable. From Joni Jam at the Gorge and Willie's 90th birthday and all of these just ridiculous, wonderful things. So yeah, it
Oh,
has
no
been
kidding. I
an
mean,
amazing year.
yeah. I mean, and obviously, you've put out albums before, but does this one feel with the anticipation and the way it's been greeted already so far with the early songs, does this one feel different, like something else is happening, something else is going on here?
Very much. I mean, I've never had the experience of people anticipating an album under my name, it's just like, oh, that's great. The thing that I'm the most excited about, I think, is just how much fellow artists that I really, really love, including all the artists on this record, that they are feeling happy and excited about it and proud of the work. And we conjured it together. So that there's just a lot of joy in that. It's, a solo record in name only, but this album is actually a baby with a lot of parents. So we're all
Uh-huh.
proud.
I love being a fellow Canadian, I love the fact that you are still so Canadian in it. It's not me.
Yeah.
Um, but does it also make you a little nervous? I mean, it's like, from where I sit, it's like having listened to your music over so many years, it's like you've been at the roller coaster and it's been inching up and up and up and up and up and up. And now you're right at that peak where you can see everything, but the ride is really going to kick in now, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I try not to worry too much about what might or might not happen or, how it will be received. I just kind of try and stay grounded in doing work that feels necessary to me and that I feel compelled to do and to do it with as much kind of honesty and openness and in open communion, creative communion with my chosen family of collaborators. That's what keeps me inspired and excited.
Well, along with honesty, there's so much joy on this album. I love it. And I mean, obviously, a lot of that is I think just a reflection of your life right now and who you are. Um, but listening to it, it also seems to me to be a very conscious decision on your part.
Yes,
This is defiant joy in a way, you know?
absolutely. Joy is resistance, and sometimes joy is our best resistance. And there's so many layers of reactionary destructive, fascist, uh, legislative terrorism that is happening in the US where I'm living. You know, we are there's a whole Canadian crew living in Nashville, Tennessee, and for all of us, it's quite um, it's a scary time to be living in Tennessee. You know, when we just had a special session where yet again lawmakers did absolutely nothing to stop the carnage of gun violence
Right.
in our state, in the across America. You know, and whilst meanwhile scapegoating our queer community, doing absolutely horrific Third Reich level things such as demanding the medical records of anyone who identifies as trans. Like those were
Right.
handed over. I mean, women no longer have bodily autonomy in the state of Tennessee. You know, it's really serious, and so it is easy to get to feel despairing and to feel paralyzed and to feel like, what can we do? But I am reminded of, and Jake Wesley Rogers reminded me of this recently in a beautiful quote of his, where he said, of course they're freaking out and having this backlash because we're winning, we're everywhere, we're fabulous. You know, there was just something so wonderful about that. Um, and and I think that is there's a lot of wisdom in that when people that live in sort of fear-based hierarchy uh, get very, very upset when they see circles of people they consider less than their equals thriving, you know?
Right.
And
Well,
so,
living well is the best revenge, or in this case,
correct,
living with
correct.
joy. Right.
Yes, exactly. That we have to be able to, the returner is so much about seizing joy from the teeth of turmoil. It's so much about joy as resistance. It's survivor's joy. You're right. It's not like a sort of like hapless, happy-go-lucky joy. It's a hard-won joy,
Right.
and that makes it the more precious and all the stronger.
And again, I just love that you politicize joy.
It
That is
is.
fantastic.
It is.
But it's also obviously it's reflected in the sound of the album, and you can hear the joy. I mean, you can hear your laughter in more than one place on this album. I mean, and from what I understand, from what I've read, it was created in a very joyful manner, as opposed to the sort of sterile, antiseptic way that so many albums are
Yeah.
recorded, right?
Yeah, I'm allergic to perfection. I can't really handle the overcompressed, comped, every moment of the vocal comped, everything, you know, I just am allergic to it. And then we make albums in an opposite way, where we're kind of taking the Neil Young crazy horse approach of you record each song 3 times. If you don't get it in 3 takes, you move on. The bed, and we did the beds all live. So we recorded at the old A&M Studios, which is now owned by Jim Henson. It started its life as Charlie Chaplin's
Yeah.
film studios back in the day in West Hollywood. Then it became A&M, where Joni Mitchell recorded Blue and Court and Spark. Carole King recorded Tapestry. They did, you know, We Are the World with Tina Turner and everybody. And it's got just such incredible mojo in the walls. You know, Shaka Khan's played the drum set in there on endless records. And it's just got so much musical mojo and history. And to be there with Wendy and Lisa, it was our first time recording with them. They've become our big sisters. You know, there were 16 of us, from 16 women ages 22 to 62, and we just really conjured this record. We had 6 days. We did the 10 songs each, and we did that method. Generally, we would take two was the one that felt the best usually, and then once we had that bed, then we would layer on the vocals, the harmonies. We did that all together in the same room, you know, where we had recorded it. The strings, Larissa Maestro, Sister Strings, Monique and Shanti Ross, and Karenza Peacock joined in on 2 of those arrangements as well. They did that live. We got to watch them doing that live in the same room where we had just recorded the song, you know. So it is a recording, but it is also what you're hearing, that laughter. That was Larissa Maestro and Sister Strings and all of us laughing between takes of the harmony vocals, all of us all together in one room. So you're hearing that same room on each layer of the recording, and it's all of us together doing it in real time, and we did it in 6 days.
Wow, I mean, that's a fantastically vast amount of work, and especially to come out of it with something like you have. I mean, for a lot of artists, those 6 days would have been, okay, well, we've got some demos and we've got some starts on things, and now we'll begin the process. But to come out of it with this finished product is, I mean, do you think that reflects a lot of your experience and the fact that you've
Yes.
been through this so many times, you can kind of cut to the chase?
Yeah, exactly. And also it reflects who, we've all found each other, and
Mm,
we're a group of artists who are very comfortable um, in performance, very proficient. I mean, all of them are just genius players. So it's not an issue of someone can't play the part. And everybody, we're not micromanaging anyone on the record. And also JT and Drew and I really did our homework, going the pre-production that we did together, and sending out demos to the entire group.
mm,
Larissa and Sister Strings were working on string arrangements long before we actually
right.
recorded. So there was a lot of preparation, and very focused preparation. But yes, you're right, that comes from 20 years of learning how to do it the wrong way, to learn to
We're
learn what
learning what
works,
not to do. Yeah.
learn what works. And if there's no, it's different for everybody. It's different for every artist and every ensemble. But this works for us. And there's a level, there has to be a level of trust, and there has to be a level of telepathy, and there has to be a willingness and a comfort with improvisation, in order, even within structure, in order
Right.
to record in that way.
I think a lot of people will be surprised at just how unabashedly groovy some of these songs are. I mean, there's some old school Olivia Newton-John disco on here.
Oh, that's so
Um,
sweet.
why was it important for you to sort of break out of the Americana zone that
Well, I'm
people
someone who
associate with?
believes that disco and R&B and hip hop and jazz are all forms of Americana, because it's
Sure.
all music that comes out of the melting pot of the Americas. And when I say Americana, I'm talking Haiti to Nunavut. I'm talking Caribbean to Arctic Circle, not
Okay.
just the lower 48, right? So um, the kind of the historical, unprecedented meeting and clashing of cultures and musics and understandings of the world, that has resulted in this unprecedented kind of melting pot music, that has come out, that is in some ways maybe the most powerful export of
Mhm.
America. Again, when I say America, I don't just mean the United States. I mean Haiti to
Right.
Nunavut, you know. So I don't think that I'm not doing Americana anymore. I just think that Americana is a much bigger umbrella than maybe. I think there's some people who think of Americana as it's people dressed as cowboys, and like that's maybe one branch, but that, to me, that is not the full story whatsoever.
Okay.
Um, but in a sense, I think we're just playing into, over the last 2 years since Outside Child was released, I've just gotten deeper and deeper in with this wonderful Rainbow Coalition circle of artists and women. And everyone is just so expansive and brilliant, and we're all eclectic listeners. And we were just, it just naturally evolved that way. Even the way we play some of the Outside Child songs live are so different than the recordings.
Okay. I wanted to ask
So,
how you would sort of
yeah.
incorporate it with some of your other material, because a lot of it's a pretty big left turn.
For me, it feels more like a natural progression, but I hear
Sure.
you. I hear you absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and again, talking about if you're making music that grooves, Wendy and Lisa, you know,
I love them so much. I love them so much. I feel
I
so
mean, what do
lucky.
they bring? What's it like working with them? I mean, aside from the fact that they're just consummate musicians, they must have some amazing stories to tell.
Best stories. They're so funny and so irreverent. They are so down to earth. They're so generous. They were so generous with all of us and with their time.
Mhm.
And even coming, there was, they were just there for every part of the process. Their wisdom, their ideas, every single thing that you could record everything they ever say, and live by those words. They're just, I can't say enough about them. And we actually have an ongoing, since those sessions, an ongoing thread. There was a moment that will stay with me for the rest of my life. We were in the middle of, we were recording, I believe it was All Without Within. And there was a moment when Wendy looked around at all of us in the room. And, so it was sort of, we were in a circle. I was in a booth. There was the big main room. This is Studio D at the old A&M and what's now Henson Studios. In the large main room, you have Meg McCormick over here on guitars, Ganessa James on the bass over here, Joy Clark on an acoustic guitar. You have Wendy Melvoin over here, and she was playing, I think, she played several things on that song, but she was playing the baritone guitar in this moment. And then there was a little booth, and that was Elena Cantlas and Lisa Coleman's realm, where they had all their keyboards and Moogs and cool synths and all the things there, and piano and everything they were playing on the record, and having the best time and communing and becoming each other's new best friends. And then we had the drum, and there was the drum booth area. So there was the kit, and switching out on kit, we had Megan Coleman and Victoria Bialik, and then Elizabeth Bubba Walker set up her percussion station just in front of the door to the drum room. So everybody was kind of in a circle where we could see each other. And then we would, go in back into the same room after, layer the harmonies, layer the strings, all the things. But I remember this one moment, Wendy looking around and saying, with tears in her eyes, that in all of these years of playing, she had never, and I'm going to try not misquote her because it was so good, all these years, I've never been in a room with just a bunch of dames making such a joyful noise, making this caliber of music, and then she named us Volvatron. Instead of Voltron, we were Volvatron forming, and we still have a text thread, all of us, all 16 of us on this text thread. And we send each other projects we're working on. We send each other encouragement. We share sorrow. We share joy. It's an ongoing community, and they have just embraced us as our big sisters. And I can't tell you what a blessing that is. And we got to have a reunion at the Joni Jam because Wendy and Lisa were part of the Joni Jam as well. And my band got to open the whole weekend of Echoes Through the Canyon. So it was a joyful reunion.
And I think you now have the title of your next album, right? Volvatron.
Volvatron. We'll see.
I dare you.
Like Daryl dared me to. I had to.
So with this one, how will you measure the success of this album? And I'm not talking about, things like how many copies it sells or how much money it makes or how many singles chart where.
I don't think I'll be able to know that until for another 50 years. If in 50 years people are still listening to it and getting something from it and feeling maybe less alone or joyful because of it, then I'll know that it succeeded. But I won't. Let's see if I live 50 years and if it's still being listened to, and then I'll be able to answer.
The success is that if it becomes timeless work for the way you have those timeless albums, right?
Exactly. I not that I'm trying. That to me is the litmus of, is an album successful? Is this a successful piece of art? Well, we don't know. Time will tell us if it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And what if that doesn't happen?
Then I'll have to, live with that, and I'll probably feel sad if people don't, if it doesn't find a home in people's hearts. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. I'll have to accept it.
Going back to the grooviness of this album, you're gonna have to learn some dance moves, I think, for some of these songs.
I always dance. I don't know if I know any moves, but I do my own version of dance.
I was going to ask if you got some moves or you're going to be too left-footed.
My own version of moves. I am by no means like no one's going to pay me to be their dancer, but I do my own thing.
All right. And you've been currently this summer. You've been doing a lot of work back up here in Canada, playing a lot of festivals. Which we are always glad to have you up here. Do you find audiences are different in different places? I mean, you were in Europe earlier this year, and then you're back in Canada, and then you're obviously going to be doing a lot of work in the States once the album comes out. Can you tell the difference in the way people respond and greet the music?
Well, people are different everywhere. I mean, I think we get really spoiled in Canada. Our festivals are just really special and really wonderful. And the sense of community, the sense of um, camaraderie, the easefulness that people just really care for each other. There's like a layer of, there's definitely, I noticed this. I don't always feel safe in the US. There's a lot of places where I don't feel safe, particularly now with all the violent rhetoric towards our queer and Black communities that are
Right.
happening at the highest levels of, government across the state. So um, that is a real thing. There's just there's a kind of a shields up and an awareness that I have to, including, of course, gun violence. And gun violence breaking out at concerts and people throwing things at artists on the stage and things like that. So there is definitely a layer of a bit more of a shield, I think, that we walk into situations with in certain places. And I do feel that I'm able to let those shields down a lot more when I'm home in Canada. Yeah.
Fair enough. So have you already started thinking ahead to the next album?
Yes, they were. I started thinking ahead to both the returner and the next one, which I see these first three solo and name only offerings as a trilogy, but that you don't have to have listened to or immersed yourself into the one previous. But for the nerds like me that do, they're going to find lots of wonderful threads between, and the cycle as a total will tell its own story as well.
Are you already writing for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. And are we gonna, is it gonna be something that you want to get out? I mean, obviously you're gonna be dependent to some degree on how this one is received and how busy it makes you and how much of your time it takes up over the next year or perhaps more. But is this a thing where you're eager to get in and make that third album and
I
kind of,
have a very ambitious vision for the third album, so
okay,
it's going to take me some time to realize it. And I'm not going to give anything away yet, but
okay.
I'll be able to tell you in the fullness of time if I pull it off.
All right. I have no doubt you'll pull it off. I think you've pulled off pretty much everything else you've set out to do so far. So,
We'll see. I hope so. Fingers
all
crossed.
right. Well, listen, thanks so much for your time today. Thanks so much for this album. I love it. And
Oh,
best of luck. And we'll see you somewhere next time you're back home up here.
definitely. Thank you so much for listening to it and the kind words and the lovely interview. Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime. My pleasure. Take
Okay.
care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye now.